I recently got my first ever job composing for a short film. Go to Work Productions asked me to make music for their short film, Hurt Olympics. The challenge was I only had 6 hours to do the entire score. Here's how it went. Go to Work was making Hurt Olympics as part of the 48-hour film project, a competition where filmmakers are tasked with making a movie in 48 hours. The participants must write, shoot, edit, and finish everything within that time frame. I can't even make stupid little videos like these in 48 hours. Well, I probably could, but I'm lazy and I'd rather play Octopath Traveler instead. Anyways, Go to Work reached out to me and asked if I could be the composer for the film. First of all, I had never composed for a short film before. I mean, I've practiced it, but I've never actually been brought on to do it for a job. Second, I was definitely gonna have way less time to work than I'm used to. I've never really had to operate on a severe time crunch like this before. I like to take my sweet time. You know, I'll lay down some drums, get up, go make a sandwich, sit back down, maybe play like 2 chords before going to binge watch all of One Piece, and then, you know, I'll come sit back down and then delete everything after overthinking it. That is the Zamir Stills' signature artistic process. But yeah, there were 1,000,001 reasons that I could have said no to this. I'd have to be crazy to force myself into such uncharted territory. No way I could finish this on time. If I did finish anything, it would probably sound awful and I would never get a composing job again. There were definitely way more qualified and experienced composers that they could get for this. I can't possibly do this. I'll talk more about what made me say yes at the end. Day 1 starts Friday night at 7 p.m. The writers receive their prompt and start work on the script and pre-production. They email me to let me know that they plan for it to be done between 10 p.m. and midnight. I want to read the script as soon as possible so I can read over it and get some ideas for the score. The script does come in, but at 2 a.m. Let me just stop real quick and clarify that I don't fault the cast and crew at all for any delays or setbacks that were experienced through this process. Please don't look at anybody on this team in a negative light. Remember, we're making a movie in 48 hours. They worked as hard as possible and were absolutely amazing all weekend. If they were late on something, I completely understood. It would just be on me to adapt. Back to 2 a.m. on what's now Saturday. As soon as I saw the script hit my inbox, I printed it out and read over it several times while taking notes like an absolute nerd. Look, man, this is my first composing job, so I just had to make sure that all my ducks were in a row. After note taking, I went to bed around 4 a.m. Shooting takes place only a few hours later. I'm not on the call sheet, but something tells me that I should go out there to observe and get a sense of what the movie's gonna look like. I get there after my 40-minute drive and the script supervisor greets me with, "Who invited you here?" She was kidding, of course. We already knew each other. I spent the day on set watching the filming happen and taking notes occasionally. I even got to be an extra, so I was at least good for something while I was there. To be honest, I'm pretty sure most of the people there didn't know that I was the composer and thought I was just a random guy just kicking it there. They wrapped shooting at 1 a.m. Sunday morning. We're officially on the final day of the whole project. The film has to be submitted by 7 p.m. that evening. At this point, I haven't recorded a single note of music. I've gotten to talk to one of the directors very briefly about what direction they want for the score, but that's about it outside of all the notes that I've made. Before I leave for the day, I asked one of the editors, who was a total champ, by the way, if I could get access to a rough cut, because I kind of want that to be the starting point for when I get to start writing the music. I tell him I'm willing to pull an all-nighter if need be, but he tells me that I can go home and sleep and it'll be there for me in the morning. So I head back home and set my alarm for 8 a.m. to give myself a few hours of sleep and around 10 hours to get all the music done. I also want to give the editors some time to work my music into the film so they're not scrambling at the last minute. 8 a.m. comes, I open my laptop, no rough cut. I start to nervously pace around my apartment with a bowl of cereal in my hand. Was I supposed to be working without a rough cut this whole time? Should I have just stayed home yesterday to compose? How long have I been pacing? My Rice Krispies are getting soggy. All of these thoughts and then some are just pounding between my ears as time ticks off the clock without a rough cut in sight. At around 11:30, I finally decide to be proactive and text the editor asking about the status of the rough cut. I send the message and then head out to Cookout to get myself some lunch and try to calm myself down. While I'm pulling out of the drive-thru, the editor calls me. They haven't been able to get close to finishing a whole rough cut. They don't have the time and asked if they can skip to just focusing on the final edit. I calmly respond and let them know that it's okay. I will simply just go off of my notes and observations from yesterday. On the inside, however, I am screaming. I have 6 hours to compose for an entire short film with minimal footage or direction. I get home at noon, panic for a little bit, but then deeply inhale, assess the situation, and make a plan. I used the places in the script that I had marked off for potential cues as a roadmap for what tracks needed to be made and which of them had the highest priority, for example, the tug of war and training montage scenes. Since I had been around for most of the shooting, I could somewhat visualize in my head what these moments would look like. After I was done furiously scribbling in my notebook, it was time to make some music. It was a flow state that I don't think I've ever experienced before. Ideas were just coming to me in droves, and I was getting them recorded like a man possessed. All the while, I was also doing some rudimentary EQing and leveling to have a somewhat presentable mix for the final pieces. When something hit my brain, I acted on it fully and transformed it into a full-fledged composition. After I send off the final piece, I sit back in my chair and look at my watch. 5:54 p.m. I had submitted everything that I wanted with time to spare. In 6 hours, I finished 9 pieces of music. I don't have the slightest idea if that's a lot for most composers in this time frame, but it's a lot for me, damn it. I messaged the team to see if they had any notes or changes that I needed to make. To my genuinely absolute shock, there were no notes. In fact, all the directors and producers said that they were very impressed with the music, not just the quantity, but also the quality. For what felt like the first time that entire day, I finally exhaled. It took a while for it to hit me, but when I did, I swelled with immense pride. I had successfully composed for my first ever short film in 6 hours and had somehow fully satisfied my client. After the 1,000,001 reasons that I said I shouldn't do it, I actually did it. Now, what made me say yes to all this craziness? I've always been a risk-averse person that would shy away from things if there was even a remote chance of being met with failure. Fear of failure and overthinking have always plagued me even before I began composing, and it's cost me in a variety of ways in a variety of aspects of my life. I feel like there have been countless opportunities that I've shied away from because of these things, and I usually end up regretting it. Recently, however, I've heard something that has strongly resonated with me. Say yes now, figure it out later. There is a voice in the back of my head screaming this when I got the email from Go to Work that pierced through the usual cloud of overthinking. After all, who knows if I ever get a chance to work on another short film? When would I ever get to challenge myself like this again as a musician? If I said no, it would just be another opportunity I passed on that I would regret forever. This challenge also forced me to adapt that mindset while composing. I mentioned this before in a joking manner, but I do constantly overthink while making music as well. And having this severe time constraint forced me to make snap decisions and trust my gut. And what do you know? My gut can make a mean soundtrack.
Remember, she's gonna try and distract you. Go after her. Pull with everything you got.
Fighters, take your positions. All right. I don't want to see a clean fight. I want to see tears. On my signal.
Ladies and gentlemen, in all my years of commentary of the Herd Olympics, I've never seen such a brutal display of domination than what the park ranger just exhibited in front of our eyes.
I mean, Jim, if we had any human rights, it would be a clear violation.
Absolutely.